You acting like I'm bringing the nigga name up there.
Acting like I'm
I ain't saying
I told her style my music.
For nearly 3 years, one of the most powerful figures in modern hip-hop lived inside a concrete cell, facing a criminal case so massive it would become the longest trial in Georgia's history, carrying the possibility of more than 120 years behind bars.
Get money, the city love me. Yeah, what's up, Jesus? Roll with me. It's gonna harm me. Rest in peace.
While the world kept streaming his music and debating his innocence, young Thug woke up every day facing the possibility that he might never walk free again. His career froze, his inner circle collapsed. The movement he created was slowly pulled into pieces by the same system that once celebrated him. This was no longer just a criminal case. This was a battle that would reshape the relationship between rap, law enforcement, and the courtroom forever. And from the very beginning, prosecutors framed YSL not as a music label, but as a violent criminal organization tied to shootings, murders, drug trafficking, and intimidation across Atlanta.
Alleging street gang activity, including robbery and murder. In Channel 2's Michael Seiden and investigative reporter Mark Winnie broke this story on WSB Tonight.
On May 9, 2022, Atlanta came to a standstill. In a coordinated sweep across the city, police arrested young Thug, Gunner, and 26 alleged associates in one of the largest gang indictments in Georgia history. Prosecutors invoked the RICO statute, a law originally designed to dismantle organized crime families and the Italian mafia, and applied it directly to the heart of Atlanta's rap scene.
One focus is targeting gangs, and there's a reason for that. They are committing conservatively 75 to 80% of all of the violent crime that we are seeing within our community.
In one moment, YSL, once known as a chart-dominating record label and cultural movement, was officially labeled a violent criminal enterprise. Young Thug now stood accused as the leader of a street gang, facing the terrifying possibility of life in prison.
That what I say is accurate. I'm not trying to get anybody else.
I'm asking you, how did you get this information?
I'm not telling the court. What I'm saying is based upon information.
Okay, well listen, if you don't tell me how you got this information, then you and I are going to have some problems.
Now this one might shock you, because leading the prosecution was Fani Willis, the same district attorney later known worldwide for bringing charges against former President Donald Trump, adding even more national attention and political weight to the case. Prosecutors claimed it was a criminal organization responsible for shootings, murders, drug trafficking, and intimidation. They argued that young Thug sat at the center of it all, quietly orchestrating violence while presenting himself as a fashion-forward musical genius. And now they were determined to prove it. In young Thug's case, prosecutors argued that he rented vehicles used in shootings, funded violent retaliation, and directed criminal operations while hiding behind the image of a music mogul. At the center of the case stood the 2015 murder of Donovan Thomas, an alleged rival gang figure. Prosecutors claimed young Thug had rented the Infiniti sedan used in the killing, suggesting his involvement in a targeted hit. If that link was held in court, it would place him directly inside a homicide conspiracy, elevating the entire case from serious to catastrophic. The charges stacked quickly: gang leadership, drug distribution, firearms offenses, conspiracy to commit violent crimes. With each new allegation, the possibility of life behind bars became more real. But this trial was never just about crime, it was about art. And that is where the case crossed into dangerous territory.
Talk about witnesses by name. They said about witness number 1 and witness number 2. This is what he says. D. Them niggas, bruh. All that fake French shit.
In a move that shocked the legal world, prosecutors introduced young Thug's lyrics as evidence. They stood before the jury and read lines from his songs, arguing that they were literal confessions of criminal activity. At one point, the defense even attempted to dismantle the prosecution's narrative by arguing that terms like YSL and Pushin' P were not gang references at all. They claimed YSL stood for the luxury brand Yves Saint Laurent, while Pushin' P meant pushing positivity, highlighting how deeply culture, slang, and legal interpretation were colliding inside the courtroom.
So what's important about the timing of this? Ladies and gentlemen, we told you that between 2016 and 2019, there were no courts involved.
The implications were massive. If Young Thug's lyrics could be used as evidence, then every rapper in America suddenly stood vulnerable. Artists across the industry reacted in outrage. Executives, lawyers, and cultural leaders warned that the courtroom was now criminalizing black expression. They pointed out that musicians in other genres had sung about murder, violence, and crime for decades without legal consequences.
He know what's going on. Ass nigga, that's what he said. Niggas are rats. He ain't say he lied on me. He said he a rat.
As the trial unfolded, it became clear that this would not be a quick legal battle. Jury selection alone dragged on for nearly 10 months, becoming one of the longest jury selection processes in American history. Delays stacked on top of delays, court schedules collapsed, witnesses recanted statements, evidence disputes erupted daily. What should have been a streamlined prosecution slowly spiraled into chaos. Inside his jail cell, Young Thug watched helplessly as the system dragged his fate through endless uncertainty. Bond requests were denied again and again. Appeals stalled, and his empire began to fracture from within. The man who once dominated the charts now counted days behind bars, knowing that a guilty verdict could mean he would never again see freedom. 7 months into the trial, everything changed.
What the you mean move forward, man? You want me to just get out of jail like these pussy ass niggas and just go forward and don't speak on shit? Just go forward and live my life. Just woo-de-doo. Yeah, I got blessed. They let me out of jail. Woo-de-doo, woo-de-doo.
Gunna, YSL's second biggest star and one of Young Thug's closest collaborators, accepted an Alford plea and walked free. In court, Gunna acknowledged that prosecutors had enough evidence to convict him and admitted that YSL functioned as both a music label and a gang. Though his lawyers insisted his statements could not legally be used against Young Thug, the public reaction was immediate and explosive. The internet erupted, and in the court of public opinion, Gunna's reputation collapsed. Meanwhile, Young Thug remained behind bars, watching as the world debated whether the man he had once trusted had abandoned him to save himself.
The Atlanta-based rapper just introduced his own albums.
Psychologically, the damage was severe. YSL had been built on loyalty, on brotherhood, on unity, and now that foundation was cracked. Young Thug stood alone, surrounded by uncertainty, carrying the weight of a trial that seemed endless. As the months passed, the courtroom itself descended into spectacle. Witness testimony turned bizarre. One key witness repeatedly claimed memory loss and delivered confusing, rambling responses that went viral online. Courtroom disruptions halted proceedings.
You all are really getting yourselves cross purposes at this point in time. Sir, I'm telling you, you are at this point in time. You made some things out of nothing.
Then came scandal after scandal. Young Thug's own attorney was arrested for contempt of court. A deputy was caught smuggling drugs to a defendant, and eventually, the presiding judge was removed from the case entirely after engaging in a secret improper meeting with a witness.
It's not, sir. That's not what happened. That's not what happened.
The trial had become a circus. Taxpayers watched millions of dollars vanish. Legal analysts openly questioned the prosecution's handling of the case. Yet despite the dysfunction, the threat against Young Thug remained constant. Life imprisonment was still on the table. By late 2024, fatigue had consumed everyone involved. The trial had no clear end in sight. Young Thug had spent nearly 3 years locked away, isolated from his children, his mother, and the world he built. With uncertainty stretching endlessly ahead, he faced a brutal decision: gamble everything on a jury, or accept a plea that would finally end the nightmare. On Halloween 2024, young Thug stood in court and accepted a non-negotiated plea deal. He pleaded guilty to several charges, including gang involvement, drugs, and firearms. In return, the judge sentenced him to time served and 15 years of probation. After 3 years behind bars, he walked free. But freedom came at a heavy cost. He was barred from living in Metro Atlanta for 10 years unless attending funerals, weddings, or graduations. He was required to perform community service, and most painfully, he was forbidden from contacting his former co-defendants. That restriction legally severed his relationship with Gunna, permanently ending one of the most influential duos in modern rap. YSL, as the world knew it, ceased to exist.
Gonna want it, man. You can't be in the city doing all that ratting and shit. Rat-ass nigga.
What?
Young Thug had escaped the imprisonment, but the empire he built was gone. As he stepped outside the courthouse, cameras flashed, fans celebrated, and headlines declared victory. But behind the relief stood a man forever changed. Nearly 3 years of isolation had reshaped him. The freedom he gained came wrapped in restrictions that ensured nothing would ever be the same. Yet the deeper consequences of this case stretch far beyond young Thug alone.
Now, as far as young Thug's attorney, he did tell our Mark Winnie last night that his client is innocent and they look forward to fighting the charges against them. We're live in downtown Atlanta. I'm Michael Seiden, Channel 2 Action News.
Prosecutors now possess a blueprint for attacking hip-hop culture using lyrics as legal weapons. Courts now hold precedent that allows creative expression to be transformed into criminal evidence. The boundaries protecting artistic storytelling have been dangerously weakened. Every rapper now faces the possibility that their art could be used against them, and that is the true legacy of the YSL trial. And in a world where lyrics can become life sentences, how long before another artist becomes the next target?